Today I had read last week or earlier in the week about what he had disclosed. The DOJ said he did seem to know some operational things, but he didn't say that he gave them the identities. He says he gave them the names of the FBI people he was involved with. Look, either he's got proof that he had a relationship with her, and he's got proof because he wasn't ever obviously prosecuted by the government for his involvement. He also wasn't mentioned in her indictment. But either he has the names, or you got to feel bad for Patrick Byrne, because as great as he rose to in this society, something's off with him now.
Well, and what are her people saying? That he, it said that her attorney said, well, he's making some claims that are worth investigating, and I'm paraphrasing here. That's basically what they're saying. Listen,
they're desperate to do anything that could help her situation.
Right, exactly.
You know, she's got real trouble.
Like you, I read the story earlier with a healthy degree of skepticism, as I read everything nowadays, especially with a healthy degree of skepticism. But we're living in unprecedented times. You don't know. And then I saw the interview earlier tonight as I was preparing for the show. I'm sure as you did as well. And then you jumped on calling him. But listen, it's interesting because speaking for the people at home, as I'm watching it for the first time, I'm like, what is he saying? Because this whole deep state thing was supposed to be about setting up Donald Trump, but yet he's saying that Hillary Clinton was set up and that the FBI was used as a political apparatus.
You know, he's not making if I had even sensed that this was about a political agenda or some InfoWars BS like that, I would never have him on the show. But I know him. I've tracked his career over the years. His website has got some stuff on it that is certainly controversial.
Deepcapture.com, the thing that he does. I mean, he is a conspiracy theorist of sorts. Not, you know, like the ones we were talking about yesterday with the guy calling President Trump.
He's not some lunatic or something like that. And again, his company was a $745 million company. And I'm not saying you can't be rich and cuckoo. I'm saying that, you know, he's always sounded like that. When I interviewed him in 1998, 99, he sounded like that. But look, either he's got the names,
or he doesn't.
Or he doesn't. And in terms of politics, he says what they did with Clinton was wrong, what they did with Trump was wrong, what they did with me was wrong. So it's not like he's trying to advance a partisan agenda that I see.
Yeah. What's interesting to me, though, is, again, I said a healthy degree of skepticism, but you don't know. He could be telling the truth.
Either he's got the names or he doesn't.
We don't know in these times. Listen, people don't know what to believe now. And having heard what he had to say, I don't know. And I would like it to be investigated a bit more. But
well, he says the DOJ is, and they put out a statement that they did meet with him. But honestly, you don't have to go any further than this. Either the names he has check out, or they don't.
And the dates and the times and the meetings and all of that. Yeah.
But look, either the names check and they know him, and or they say no, this guy, it's sad, but you know, this is none of this is in the realm of reality.
The whole part about Warren Buffett, he said Warren Buffett advised him to come forward. And then he said him and others, I believe, hopefully I'm getting this right, said that you're going to be eaten alive by the political class in Washington if you come forward with this. And I'm sure they're mulling it over now.
Well, he's going to get eaten alive by us, you know, as we go through the fact proof, you know, the fact checking of it. And that's okay. I mean, that's the rigor that a situation like this is going to warrant. And it's easy. You know, we're putting in calls right now to Warren Buffett, and he's going to either not comment or he's going to comment and say that this is true or not true.
Yeah.
Not the underlying story, because I don't think he has proof of that. Either he's got pictures of him and Butina, or he doesn't.
But if you listen to Asha Rangappa, she said, listen, it's not unusual for the FBI to talk to someone about it, you know, especially if you have a relationship with someone that they're investigating.
And
of course,
he says
they're going to try to use you as an asset.
I'm not saying that part's weird. I'm just saying overall it's strange. Look, I think given who he is, I think he deserved to have his say. And he's had it, and now we got to vet it. But I do not see it as the advancing of some deep state conspiracy that, like, we hear from a lot of the, you know, the Trumpers on the far right or something like that. I don't see it as
well, they will try to put the two together, right? It's a whole deep state thing. But what he's saying, he's not talking about, as you said, well, they're just going after the Trump people. They're just going after the campaign. Basically, what he's saying, according to him, is that the premier investigative unit in the United States is being used, at least he thinks, in this situation, as a political unit rather than an investigative unit. And if that is indeed so, that is troubling.
It is, but here's the good news. Either the names that he says he gave them check out, or they don't. And as soon as we find out that they do, then it's worth looking at the next chapter of this. And
Well,
until that, you've heard it. There's no reason for anybody to say that we're like keeping it quiet or covering it up.
Of course not.
And now he's had his say. He deserves it. He's the head of a big company. He's never been tarred with anything like this before. It's worth hearing. We've heard it. We're checking on it. We'll see.
Mull it over, and then we'll figure it out. We'll go from there. Thank you. We have lots to talk about. We're going to talk about that as well, but a lot more as well. Thank you, Chris. I'll see you soon. Nice, interesting interview, to say the least. Fascinating. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon, and we got to talk about the President of the United States as well. His erratic behavior, because we can't let that slip to the wayside, okay? Slip by the wayside. His erratic behavior, because it is getting worse. It is getting worse. We've heard it with our own ears. We've seen it with our own eyes. Sources inside the White House telling CNN that the president is worried that the economy may take a downward turn ahead of the election. And the New York Times reports that some former members of Team Trump, that they're afraid the pressure is getting to him. They're afraid of what he'll do or what he'll say if those warning lights on the economy keep flashing as the election gets closer. Because the fact is, as the economy goes, so goes Trump's presidency. And worries about the economy, well, they bring out the worst in this president. Every campaign rally, every Q&A with reporters on the White House lawn, every tweet is another opportunity for him to go off script, to contradict himself on his own policies, and to lash out at his perceived political enemies. The fact is, most of us would be in big trouble for doing what this president has done. Think about that. Think about what if you did or said what this president has said. You'd be in big trouble. Lobbing anti-Semitic attacks at American Jews who support Democrats, launching a nonsensical scheme to buy Greenland, then feuding with Denmark's prime minister when she wouldn't go along with him. Not to mention praising a known conspiracy theorist who said he's like the king of Israel and the second coming of God. And then there are the contradictions on his own policies, the latest on tax cuts. The White House economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, saying this today.
What the president's trying to say is there's no near-term tax cuts for stimulus or fighting recession. We're not going to tamper with temporary tax cuts of any kind, any kind.
He says the president is trying to say there are no tax cuts coming anytime soon. But what the president actually said was this.
We're always looking at the capital gains tax, payroll tax. Payroll tax is something that we think about, and a lot of people would like to see that.
And a day later, this.
I'm not looking at a tax cut now. We don't need it. We have a strong economy.
So he's not looking at a tax cut, except he's always looking at tax cuts. It's like he doesn't even know or care about his own policies. Let's not forget what the president said about the tax cut he's already pushed through.
Our consumers are rich. I gave a tremendous tax cut, and they're loaded up with money.
Okay, so here's the fact. The fact is, the president's tax cut only lowered rates temporarily for individual taxpayers, but corporations got a permanent tax cut. And all of that has fueled an explosion in the deficit. It's expected to hit $960 billion this year and soar past $1 trillion next year. $960 billion this year, soar past $1 trillion next year. What else is happening next year? Oh, that's right, the election. Like I said, worries about the economy bring out the worst in this president. The worst. Like trying to buy Greenland and then freaking out when Denmark's prime minister calls the idea absurd.
I thought that the prime minister's statement that it was absurd, it was an absurd idea, was nasty. I thought it was an inappropriate statement.
And then taking the whole thing very, very personally.
I thought it was not a nice statement, the way she blew me off, because she's blowing off the United States. And we've done a lot for Denmark. We've done a lot. I know Denmark well. I have many friends from Denmark. I have many people from Denmark that live in the United States. And we treat countries with respect. She shouldn't treat the United States that way by saying, what an absurd. She said absurd. That's not the right word to use, absurd.
The worst, like defending Vladimir Putin and claiming he outsmarted President Barack Obama.
Russia outsmarted President Obama. They took over during his term, not during mine, Crimea.
They're still there. Why let them in now?
They took over Crimea. We spend a lot of time talking about Russia at those meetings, and they're not there. I think it would be a good thing if Russia were there, so we can speak directly.
So let's remember this, okay? Russia still holds Crimea. Russia still holds Crimea. And that's the whole reason that they were kicked out of the then G8 in the first place. Vladimir Putin has done absolutely nothing to deserve being welcomed back. So what will President Trump do at the G7 in a matter of days? Well, he's told us what he's going to do. What he wants to do, at least. He wants to get his buddy Vladimir Putin welcomed back. The man he stood by in Helsinki as he threw his own intelligence community right under the bus.
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Well, and let's not forget this president's attacks on Jewish Americans who support Democrats, trafficking in the old, ugly, anti-Semitic charge of dual loyalty. Only this time, turning it on his head and complaining that he thinks they're disloyal to Israel.
In my opinion, you vote for a Democrat, you're being very disloyal to Jewish people, and you're being very disloyal to Israel. And only weak people would say anything other than that. I haven't heard anybody say that, just the opposite. I think that if you vote for a Democrat, you're very, very disloyal to Israel and to the Jewish people.
Let's not forget that this president, who's waging a trade war with China, said this.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning.
He says he's the chosen one. Chosen by whom, I wonder? He says he's winning. Must have forgotten that he backed down on a new round of tariffs just last week. The White House calling that a Christmas present to the nation. And then there's the president's disgraceful flip-flopping on background checks less than 3 weeks after 31 people were killed in mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton. First, he was for background checks.
I'm looking to do background checks. I think background checks are important.
Then he resorted to spouting NRA talking points.
We have very, very strong background checks right now. And I have to tell you that it is a mental problem, and I've said it 100 times. It's not the gun that pulls the trigger, it's the person that pulls the trigger. A lot of the people that put me where I am are strong believers in the Second Amendment, and I am also. And we have to be very careful about that. You know, they call it the slippery slope, and all of a sudden everything gets taken away. We're not going to let that happen.
And tonight, he tweets about having a meeting on mass shootings without clarifying who was at that meeting, saying, quote, I am hopeful Congress will engage with my team to pass meaningful legislation. Hopeful? You mean like those hopes and prayers that pop up after every mass shooting? And did you see any mention there of any concrete, like background checks? Anything concrete like background checks? Neither did I. All these contradictions, all these attacks on his enemies, all this crazy talk about being the chosen one and the king of Israel, it's all because his worries about the economy bring out the worst in this president. Like I said, as the economy goes, so goes the Trump presidency. You know, you heard a lot of shocking claims from the CEO of Overstock.com in his interview tonight with Chris. Patrick Byrne, he says he helped the FBI carry out what he calls political espionage. And he admits that he had a relationship with accused Russian agent Maria Butina. We're going to dig into his controversy claims, his extraordinary claims, I should say, next.
America Avant-Garde, Saturday on CNN, in association with Access Bank.
When news happens anywhere in the world, CNN is there. In Iran,
this country continues to chafe under the weight of U.S. sanctions.
Absolutely overwhelming.
in Greenland.
The government of Greenland has come out and said, quote, Greenland is not for sale.
In Denmark.
What we got from the Prime Minister was the hope that the dialogue would continue.
In Hong Kong.
From the look of it, these protests are not about to end.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Cyril Vanier. This is CNN News Now. Global alarm is growing over the record fires destroying the Amazon. The UN Secretary General tweets, "The Amazon must be protected." The French president says our house is on fire, literally. He is calling on the G7 to take action this weekend. Brazil's president says his government doesn't have the resources to fight the fires. British and French leaders met in Paris Thursday, but there were no breakthroughs on Brexit. French President Emmanuel Macron told British Prime Minister Boris Johnson it's too late to completely renegotiate the withdrawal agreement. However, Mr. Johnson insisted where there's a will, there's a way. Italy's president says political leaders now have until Tuesday to form a majority government, this after the coalition government collapsed. The president says if they cannot form a majority by then, parliament may be dissolved. And he hasn't ruled out the possibility of snap elections. Also, Washington is urging South Korea and Japan to settle their differences after Seoul abruptly ended a key military intelligence sharing deal with Tokyo. That agreement helped track the missile threat from North Korea and monitor China. It is the latest blow in a decades-long diplomatic and trade dispute. Those are our headlines this hour on CNN. I'm Cyril Vanier. Thanks for watching.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment, and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
I didn't know what his intention was. I knew it could be obstruction of justice.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers.
Are you playing with fire?
And we also dive below the headlines to explore vital issues impacting our lives.
It's about right and wrong.
You have to stand up for what you believe in.
We need to realize that our future is at risk and we need to take action.
Was that kind of mortifying or did you enjoy it? I mean, you were great.
It's crucial we make sense of what's happening.
Do you regret that? Do you think there should be nuclear power or more commitment to a clean environment?
New Zealand had its experience and changed its laws. To be honest with you, I do not understand the United States.
Does love have a chance of winning?
I always believe that.
And fully understand what's at stake.
Amanpour, tonight on CNN.
Continue to follow developments on the Overstock story, so stand by. But now I want to turn to President Trump's increasingly erratic behavior. Sources inside the White House telling CNN that he's worried the economy may turn downward ahead of the 2020 election. So how should the Democratic candidates react? Frank Bruni's here to discuss, of the New York Times, of course. David Axelrod, a former senior advisor to President Obama, joins us as well. Good evening, gentlemen. David, if economic concerns are bringing out the worst in this president, how should 2020 Democrats be addressing the chaos that results from this? What is the message here?
Yeah, well, I think the word you use, the operative word, is chaos. And, you know, I've believed for a very long time that the most effective argument for anyone running against the president is that we just can't do this for another 4 years. It's less about, you know, it's easy to get outraged. It's easy to be morally indignant about what he's done. We do that all the time. But the reality is, whether you like some of the things he's done and you don't, or you don't, what I think a majority of Americans can agree on is we can't wake up every day to the tweets and tantrums and gratuitous battles that create all of this chaos and make it very difficult to get anything done on the things that they actually care about. And I think that's the most effective argument for anyone running against this president. You once asked, well, you know, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? The question in 2020 will be, can we actually do this for another 4 years?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we do wake up every day to send. People have no idea, Frank, what they're going to wake up to, right? It's just like a storm of, you know what, every day just coming out of the president's Twitter feed, and you see it on the White House lawn. And listen, there are so many every day. Let me read them. This is the headlines right now. Trump administration wants to hold undocumented families together indefinitely. He doubled down on anti-Semitic trope. He thanked a conspiracy theorist. He threw a tantrum over Greenland. What do Democrats focus on now?
Well, I actually don't think they need to go through all of that, because I think Donald Trump is making the greatest case against himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think most Americans are watching this. They're exhausted by it. Unless they're already predisposed favorably to Donald Trump, they are thinking we need to get beyond that. I think what the Democratic candidates need to do is not bang on and on about how terrible Trump is, because I think the people who can see clearly see that. I think they need to talk about themselves, what they're going to do, and let voters fill in the blanks of, do I want 4 more years of Trump? This is the most covered, dissected, discussed, in his own way, transparent president in my lifetime. I mean, you can see very vividly all the time, every hour of the day, in every tweet, who Donald Trump is. Voters know who he is. They know what they think about him. What they don't know is what their alternatives are. And so I think Democrats need to focus on their plans, their vision, and let him step all over himself.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, though, because, listen, as you said, people are exhausted, and it's true, they are. They have Trump fatigue, right? They're just tired. But he's still riding a pretty good economy. What happens if it turns south? Then what?
Well, I mean, what I was saying is I would talk about that economy. If I were a Democrat, I would talk about what I was going to do differently and how I might pull it out of its tailspin. I wouldn't personalize it to Donald Trump, because if everything becomes a food fight, everybody descends to his level. And I think the way, and David's talked about this a lot too, so I think David's going to agree with me. I think the way for a Democrat to move forward is to model a much better kind of behavior, to model a more civic discussion, to model a more collaborative approach, rather than pitting everybody against each other all the time.
What do you think of that, David?
Well, I do agree with that. I think people are going to be looking for the remedy to this migraine headache that won't go away. and they're going to be looking for calm. They're going to be looking for decency. They're going to be looking for, as Frank says, a better model of what the president should be. And I don't think you have to bring the language of repudiation every single day. The only place where I slightly disagree with Frank is that I do think that you have to have an argument about, this is a choice. Every election is a choice, and you have to be able to frame the choice. But I think the choice should be framed in terms of stability, decency, calm, reason, versus what we have. And I don't think it has to carry heavy judgment with it. I think people are making their own judgments. On that, I thoroughly agree.
I think I would also, if I say a Democrat should talk about broken promises, right? I mean, saying Donald Trump is indecent, saying Donald Trump is erratic, that's all stuff a voter can determine, by him or herself. But broken promises, go through what he said his presidency was going to be like and where he's fallen short, because that's concrete.
Frank, David, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And be sure to watch David Axelrod on the Axe Files Saturday night at 7 Eastern, the Axe Files right here on CNN. I appreciate it. The president's attacks on Jewish voters are still making waves. My next guest calls what he said breathtakingly cynical and buffoonish, and he knows what he's talking about. He is the former U.S. ambassador to Israel. He's next.
Grow your media business at 2454 Abu Dhabi, your gateway to the Middle East and North Africa. Home to over 470 businesses across production, gaming, digital, advertising, and more. Enjoy 0% corporate tax, 30% cashback rebate on productions, a full suite of media services, and state-of-the-art facilities on our media campus. With 0 license and registration fees for your first 2 years, our business development team will guide you through our simple setup process to get your business up and running. Our community provides access to world-class services and facilities inside a thriving media ecosystem, ensuring your success. So get in on the action at the Capital for Content Creators. Join us at 2454.com/join.
All new African Voices Changemakers. Create opportunities. Impact communities. Transform lives. This week, environmentalists build up communities through zero waste projects.
What we are trying to do at WeCyclers is to encourage people not to dump their trash, because trash is actually valuable. It's going to empower them.
African Voices Changemakers, Sunday on CNN in association with Glow.
Denise Ho is one of the most prominent faces of the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong, a city where protesters are fighting for greater freedom from mainland China.
This is only the beginning.
She has taken their cause to the world stage, angering Beijing. This month, we sit down with the singer-turned-activist in Hong Kong as the city faces its worst political turmoil in decades.
Some protesters are calling for a revolution. Is that what is happening right now?
Talk Asia, Saturday on CNN.
Traveling is not just about seeing places with the most likes or getting iconic photos.
Amazing.
It's about finding a city's DNA, meeting people who share its secrets. It's about making discoveries that wow you and make you feel like a child again. It's a world of wonder.
Look at it!
Now go and see it on CNN in association with Turkish Airlines.
I'm Natalie Allen. This is CNN.
Business is all about making connections. But some connections are easier to make than others. With a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
Celebrate the racing season in style with CNN.
This month's Winning Post and Elegant Life samples the delights of South Korea and explores the nation's increasing hunger for horse racing.
Winning Post, An Elegant Life, Saturday on CNN in association with Longines.
I'm Fred Pleitgen in eastern Greenland, and this is CNN.
President Trump attacking Jewish Americans who vote for Democrats, claiming they're being disloyal to Israel. Joining me now to discuss is Ambassador Daniel Shapiro, who was U.S. Ambassador to Israel under President Barack Obama. Thank you so much, Ambassador. I really appreciate you joining us. You call President Trump's expectation that Jewish people vote for him because of his record on Israel breathtakingly cynical. Tell me why.
Well, look, first of all, the charge of disloyalty toward American Jews who vote for Democrats is outrageous, and it does echo some of the worst anti-Semitic attacks throughout history, sometimes that have led to violence against Jews everywhere they've lived. So it deserves condemnation. But even more than that, it deserves ridicule, because it's a sign of President Trump's complete narcissism and childish expectation that the American Jewish community will simply salute in obsequious appreciation for the gifts he thinks he's bestowed on us